Newcastle first. Are they the real deal?
Again, you know, it's too early to suggest whether they're going to win the Premier League title.
I'm not going that far.
What real deal are we talking
We're talking
about?
Are they good enough?
Are they moving in the right direction?
Are they going the
Absolutely.
right way?
Yeah.
Are they able now to say we are genuinely able to compete with the established top 4, 6?
Again, it's like when we spoke about Arsenal. I think the squad will be tested. I think they're limited when you look at the bench. I don't think there's too many options. But I think his first 11, if he can keep them fit, what he's produced there is he's got a lot of character in the team, a lot of belief, the confidence from the results that they keep churning out now. Only one defeat is fantastic. They're good on the road. They can score goals. They're very good at defending. So they've got all the attributes. Yeah, it's a challenge for a European place. I think after the World Cup, when the window opens, the transfer window opens, I think then, like we spoke about before, recruitment will take them to another level if he wants to go there. Now, I think he's getting these results and this character has come by not splashing the money on superstars and the likes of Almiron then gets pushed out. I think you're getting a response for the fact that Eddie Howe's looking at him going, you're my team, you're my players. I'm going to give you the opportunity to produce, and they're all doing that collectively, and I think it's fantastic. But as the season goes on, he needs to buy in the winter window just to strengthen and bolster that squad, because he's going to need everyone come sort of March, April, and then into May.
I think they've got numbers. I mean, if I look at that bench, there's a lot of players there: Ryan Fraser, Lascelles, Jamal Lewis, Manquillo, Jacob Murphy, Shelvey, Taggart, Wood. They've all got masses of Premier League experience.
Yeah.
I said they've got numbers.
But
they'll have to raise the quality eventually. But you can't do that, as we've been talking about. You can't just go out and do that, Richard. What they've done, if they finished, I don't know, if they finish what, they'll be getting excited, Newcastle fans, and rightly so, because they've not had a lot to get excited about lately over the years. So I think what they would do, they would say right now, Newcastle fans are probably saying, we could get Champions League, you know. Maybe it might be a bit beyond them, because I expect some of the big boys to start getting some consistency in their game. But what I think they can be, you said they could be best of the rest. We've talked about that phrase, best
minimum
of the rest.
They should be that, but can they compete with the top 4?
They can get top 6.
Okay. If they want to sign big names, if the next step is to go and get a signature signing, is it going to have to be the case at some stage they move the senior players geographically nearer to where top players want to be?
You mean move the training ground to London?
You love this one.
Yeah.
You do like that one, do you?
Just to go back to the point on
No,
big
don't go
names.
back to the point.
No, because I'll come to that
Answer
in a minute. No, because my point, which is relevant to these big names, I don't know whether, and I've just mentioned it there, Eddie Howe not going into that market and bringing in these sort of Galactico names. I don't know whether Eddie Howe wants to, because I don't know whether he could handle that kind of player.
We don't know.
No.
You don't know yet.
We don't know.
What we do know is that if they are going to progress to being genuine challengers to win the Premier League, then they're going to need more and better quality. So I put the question back to both of you. If that is the case, we know that top players want to live near the capital city, Alderley Wedge or similar, but maybe not too much further north. So would it make sense for Newcastle to move the operation south?
Listen,
just the first team, just the first 25.
You've battered me with that for many years now, and I'm becoming punched on with it.
I remember.
But
Sunderland nearly did it.
What I would say to you is, even if they wanted, they couldn't do it without fan permission, in my opinion.
I'm not saying, you see, this is where we always have a difference of opinion on it. I'm not saying you take the club.
No.
I'm saying you take the first team squad, who you probably don't see out and about in Newcastle too much now anyway. Your club, your structure, your core, the stadium, the under-21s, everything, the youth, everything remains at Newcastle, because that's where your club is based. But to get the top players,
I go back.
You go south.
I go back to what I say. I don't think you get away with that without the fans. Okay.
But also, you don't have to do it because you've got the financial backing, clout, to give these big players what they want for a number of seasons.
Well, you can't give them what they ideally want,
Hold on.
You can.
which is London.
See, what we talk
No,
about,
what's London
when we
offer?
talk about big players, well, they're not going to be good out
You've never lived in
signing-
London, so obviously
They're not going to go and
you
sign
don't know.
stellar players now, or even next transfer window, or even next transfer window. They'll be moving. I mean, they've got people like Alexander Isaac, and much did he cost?
Oh, he was up there, yeah.
He
a
was
few
up
quid.
there.
70 million.
Something like
70 plus,
that.
yeah.
I mean, they've paid big money for him. He's signed for them. I know what you're going to say. He's not a global superstar, but he might be. We've only had a glimpse of him at Anfield, and he looked decent. He looked decent. So what I'm saying, they can do what, in many ways, they can do what Klopp did at Liverpool for the first few seasons. Klopp, when he was building that team, I don't think spent over 30 million.
No, not in the
on a
first few
player,
windows.
did he?
No. He had a few windows where he didn't
we've
spend
had all
anything.
these conversations. What I'm saying
I
is,
know.
with the increasing number of foreign owners, not just American, I think the Americans probably at some point might say to themselves, do you know what, this franchise we've bought, this franchise, we want to operate it
In America.
somewhere, well, maybe, but we want to operate it somewhere else. The core stays in Newcastle.
No.
Everything connected with that football club stays
And
on
not at
Tyneside.
all, because
But the first 25, who, as I say, I repeat, you don't see them in and out about the town these days.
I don't know.
So what difference actually does it make? They're in a plane probably 2.5, 3 days a week, travelling to different places. So
Richard,
why not?
I get your argument.
You don't see
I do
these.
get your argument.
Just going back to a social side, because you're obviously saying London offers more than Newcastle. In what sense? What, the shops and the restaurants and
I think for the family,
They
it
never-
offers enormously more.
private schools? There's private schools in the northeast.
I didn't say private schools. I said for the family as a group. The capital is a place where players can lose themselves, where there is a
But
lot
they
more
don't now.
privacy,
Richard, they don't.
where they can enjoy
They don't go out.
the fruits of a capital city. There's so much more.
They don't go out now.
Entertainment, meals, restaurants,
They
the
get
finest.
chefs
You're saying all the other
They get
cities in
chefs
England
in.
are rubbish. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that outside of the capital city, the facilities aren't perhaps as grand
they're not as
or
grand.
as appealing.
No, I get you 100%, because there are, particularly the guys who come from abroad to play in England, they do, if they can, geographically, a lot of them. I wouldn't say every one of them, because why would all these players be playing in Newcastle and
What
Liverpool
did
and
Yarmolenko
Manchester?
say when given the choice between
Nah, I know.
Newcastle and
Well,
West Ham?
He might be accepted.
What did Yarmolenko say?
Yarmolenko was offered Newcastle or West Ham.
Yes.
He asked what cities do they both play in. He was told West Ham are in London, Newcastle are in a city called Newcastle in the northeast of England.
What was his answer?
I'll go to London.
What
But
talk-
that's-
the
prosecution
that doesn't
rests
mean-
its
No,
case.
but that doesn't mean everybody would do
What
that.
talks now? With football as a business now, it's not just a sport, is it? So what talks? Money. Money talks. So all of a sudden you've got someone, I don't know, you'd have to give me a glamorous name, I can't think off the top of my head, who wants, Arsenal want him, but Newcastle want him. And then Newcastle all of a sudden say, well, do you know what, I'll give you 100 grand a week more than what Arsenal are offering. So I'll give you 350 instead of 250. And all of a sudden that proposition is like, ooh, do you think he's thinking, oh no, I'm going to give up 100 grand a week to live in London?
I think that's a consideration for him.
No,
yeah.
but look
No,
at Jesse
I think-
Lingard. Where did Jesse Lingard go from Manchester United?
Well, I don't think we can
Come
use
on.
Jesse as an
No,
example for
we're talking about
anything,
money.
can
I'm
we?
backing Jason's
I
plan up
mean,
about money. Where did Jesse Lingard sign for Forest for? Not for ambition, not to win things,
No.
not to qualify for Europe, because he was offered a huge chunk of
And
money.
so then you look at his character and say, well, carry
all I'm
on.
saying.
So there's a
And then the owners of Newcastle, I've got that clout to do that. And, you know, they bought it to get to the top. First of all, they've got to get Champions League football, otherwise they're not attracted in that play, because that's where they all want to play from a
Yeah.
sports side of it, a football side of it.
where do 8/10 of the staff at Liverpool live?
They live 45 minutes from the training ground.
Sorry, where do 8/10?
I think they might live
Cheshire.
somewhere near Manchester.
Oh, they live in Manchester.
They live in Cheshire.
So what's the difference?
Well, it's 45 minutes to the training ground.
So they're nowhere
Anfield.
near Liverpool where they earn their money.
But well, I don't
Well,
know
what I'm
you're
saying is geographically,
they're not 4 hours
players,
away. They're not 4 hours away, are they?
gravitate to Manchester if
But
they
they're in
can't
the
go to
city every
London,
day. They're in
even
the
if they're
city every day.
playing for Liverpool.
Because, no, the difference between that is they want to get out the city. Because, as you know, Liverpool's a goldfish bowl.
So is
Aye.
Newcastle. You don't
So is
think that is?
everywhere.
Yeah, I know, but it's not 4 hours away, is it? You're suggesting Newcastle move to London.
I'm saying you take
First
the
team.
creme de la creme, the first team, to London, and you what's the
bottom-
difference?
the bottom
It's-
line is
you're
the
training on a
fans.
piece of
Not
grass.
I know that 100% your argument would be received by a lot of the owners, very warmly, and they would not dismiss it quickly. They would absolutely love to think about that. I just don't think you get it over the line unless you get the rubber stamp from your fans. I just don't.
And if the trade-off was we're taking this group to London, and by the way, in 18 months we're going to win the title.
Well, you can't guarantee that.
Well, you can if you get the right players.
Do you think all the Geordie fans want to get on a train?
No, you can't.
On a train and do 3 hours to London every weekend, every other weekend?
No.
Play.
What then?
Fly.
We're flying in. We're going to fly them in.
Fly them in.
We're flying the team back in.
They're flying the team back in.
Well, where are they going to watch them? You mean they live there and then they fly up and...
Yes.
They live in London and then they fly to Newcastle for the games as if it's an away game.
Right, that's going to work, yeah.
I get it. I think there's a few owners would like your idea.
It's happened all over where there's been trouble in Europe. Teams have done it. It's happening now. Teams that play football in the Ukraine, training and working somewhere else, fly home.
I think if Newcastle fans went up in arms and said no, then they don't get to do it. A bit like the Premier League, the Super League, when fans rose up. Well, they did.
I would argue that the fans had really not a great deal to do with the fact that
the clubs rose
once
up.
Paris and Munich said we're not doing this, that's when the Champions League...
like Paris and Bayern might have influenced a few
Was it
as
not
well.
Gary Neville?
No.
Oh, there's me thinking it was Gary Neville.
I know.
I'd say the
No,
Premier
the
League.
answer is no.